Nice. Hey, so I'm Nicole.
And I'm Cassie.
This is Tech Thursday. And the reason that we're laughing really hard is because we thought we were live and we've been talking for 5 minutes.
Actually.
Yeah.
We were like, yeah.
Thank God you noticed that. That would have broken my heart.
I was like, why am I so, like, the first few times I did it, I was fine. And this time, for some reason, I'm like, wait, what?
No, it's fine. At least you noticed it 3 minutes in instead of like 25 minutes in. That would have made us want to cry. No, you noticed it, so good for you. So anyway, it's Tech Thursday, and we want you guys to send us questions. We didn't get any last week, but we've been helping people with some stuff that we can talk about. But if you have questions, you can submit them through the website, comment on them on social media, just the usual. Yeah. Whatever. We'd like to hear from you. And not just Cassie's dad.
Which I actually had to, like, ask if he had any questions, so that wasn't even, like...
we can't go around asking all of you.
What can I talk about?
There are worse people to ask, but I thought something that we could talk about today, because I've been helping a couple people. We all have these phones, right? And they have a fair bit of storage, but I think we all kind of can max out our storage. And so I had a friend who wanted to upgrade to the new iOS, but couldn't because she didn't have enough space. So we had to figure out some stuff on our phone.
That's happened to me before.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's happened to all of us. Like
I just sent to the cloud.
Right. Well, and so
I don't even know what I was just pressing buttons, and I was like, it's working now.
It's working now. Well, you can frantically press buttons and it'll work. Or you can also take storage into your own hands. And part of it is finding a way to store things that is not just on your phone. You just can't carry an indefinite amount of like pictures and music and stuff on your phone. You need to have some other place to store it. And a lot of times that storage comes in the form of the cloud. And that way you can access things on different devices, and you can access, different formats of things. So you look like you're blissing out on cloud storage.
The cloud amazes and confounds me.
Right. And something we were talking about when we thought we were on camera, but we're actually off camera, is that Cass and I both went to the same college. We both went to Bates College. And Go Bobcats. And we had an internal server, which probably every college has, and ours was called Paris. So you would put your files, if you were working on the computer lab in the science lab or something, you would put your files on Paris, then you could go back to your dorm and you could access the same files. I
think the only thing I ever actually put on Paris was my thesis.
Yes.
I think everyone, like, thesis. If nothing else, everyone just had their thesis on the Paris.
On the Paris. So what you need to do when you get out of college is you need to come up with your version of Paris. Well, you probably need to come up with a lot of things. But some kind of storage system would help, right?
Yeah. If nothing else.
Totally. And there's lots of options available. Some are free, some cost money, some cost different amounts of money. And so a couple of them are like Google Drive, Dropbox. I think iCloud also exists. And there's lots of other like sort of cloud storage options, but those are the big ones, I think.
Yeah. I like Dropbox in that you can access it like online. So if I'm working remotely and the computer that I work on remotely doesn't necessarily have the Dropbox program that this computer has or that one has, I can get on the internet and get at it that way.
Yeah, totally.
I have to log in.
Yeah, and Dropbox, like most services, they do the freemium thing, right? So they want to get you used to and liking it. So they give you...
that word before.
It's called, yeah. So it's like, it's free at first, and then once you basically get used to it, around 2 to 4 gigs in, they say, oh, okay. And actually, it's not super expensive. I think we pay like $90 a year for 150 gigs of storage. And that's been enough to store all the client work we've ever done in the last 6 years and still only be at 50% of the capacity we could be using. So that's pretty cool. I mean, and we're talking like video work, we're talking all kinds of stuff. What we end up doing in Dropbox is we have an active client folder and a sort of past client folder. And so for the laptop that we're broadcasting from, it has less RAM than our desktop computer. So what we do is just have the active client folder accessible on this computer, so it's not taking up all that energy, right? Because it was running slow, and we figured that was probably the reason. So that's the thing with Dropbox. It can be a little clunky, especially with the computer. So you might have 150 gigs of storage, but if your computer only has access to like less than that, it's just not going to work. So you need to just say, okay, folders are accessible really easily on this computer. And like Cassie says, you can go on Dropbox.com, log in with your info, and just download anything as you need it.
Yeah.
So
it's helpful.
Yeah. And then there's also Google Drive. And you can actually store photos and documents and stuff in Google Drive. But it's handy for other things. Like we use it differently, I think, than we use Dropbox, would you say?
Yeah, we use it more for like sharing information and like,
right.
I feel like organizing like thoughts and collaborating that way. We don't have any photos, I think, on the Google Drive.
No, we just have the Google Drive. Well, it is the Google Drive. You can put an article in front of it. But yeah, well, like, you know, for writing content for somebody or writing like a newsletter draft or something like that, we use, you know, stuff that's sort of written that, you know, people need to comment on. Because otherwise what we would do is we would put the folder. So I'd say like, oh, hey guys, like I wrote this thing, upload it to Dropbox, and then maybe Cassie and John are simultaneously downloading and editing it, and then they both go to add it. And there's no like version control, right?
Yeah.
What's nice about Google Drive is that I can see who edited what at what time and what day. And if somebody accidentally deleted something, like me, I can go back 2 days and say, okay, restore this version of the file to the non-deleted important information version of the file. So, you know, also there's iCloud, but the thing I don't like about iCloud is it's Mac only. So if you're like a Mac only family or a Mac only business, like you could probably use iCloud for stuff. It's really similar to Dropbox. You put files in, they're accessible on different devices.
The files in the Dropbox.
It puts the files in the Dropbox. Maybe you just like the word "the" today.
It's a thing apparently.
Yeah, but it's nice.
Thursday.
Yeah, but other than freeing up space on your phone, you can also like store stuff to just have a backup or have like an easy way to find something. Because yeah, like if you're like, oh right, I, you know, took that picture, and then if you have some kind of storage system where you have a folder of like all the pretty nature pictures you take, and you know you always put your nature pictures in there, when you're looking for that 6 months from now and you're like, oh, I want to, you know, upload this to Facebook or something like that, it's in a place you can find it, other than you looking through your phone looking for that picture. We've all done it. No judgment. Yeah.
Except 9 times out of 10, I'm like, I really wanted to upgrade to the next version of iOS, so I just straight up deleted everything.
Cassie,
I know.
You don't have to do it. No. And one thing I thought was really interesting, I just went to, so our local chamber has these Tech Tuesday presentations. I feel like they might have copied us, Tech Thursday. But I'm just going to just say that. But anyway, they had David Sharon of CompuSalt. He's in Ellsworth. His business is out of Ellsworth. He lives in Southwest Harbor. But he had a good tip and something I've never thought about, which is that a lot of people, when they work somewhere and have files, like Paris at Bates, you had a file with your name on it. So like you're at work and you're like, oh yes, this is Cassie's folder, and Cassie puts all her work stuff in her Cassie folder. But what happens when Cassie leaves? Or what happens when I try to go in Cassie's folder and find the thing I know she did, you know? Rather than thinking of it in terms of individual centric, you have to do it as project or client centric. So you should have files that are like, here's for X client, and that way whoever needs to access them can get the same information. Which I thought was a really interesting kind of pro tip. It's something I've never thought about, but it's something I guess I did from the beginning, and honestly it's been really handy.
Yeah, I've enjoyed that.
Yeah, you haven't like thought, how does Nicole organize her mind? It's just like, okay, it's in the client folder. If we have a client by that name, it is in the client folder with that client's name. Now, inside the folder might be pure chaos, but you know it's in there, at the very least. We're working on that. But yeah, I thought
that's step 2.
I just thought that was a really interesting point, and it's something we're all kind of trained to do in college because we're all like, okay, well, we have our own individual folder that we put stuff in.
It's so funny though, because when I came here, I never thought like, where's my Cassie folder? That needs to be a thing.
Right. Yeah, and I have like a Nicolette folder like in Dropbox, but I just put like things I find funny and stuff in there, and I just use it for some storage. If you want to do that, you're welcome to, by the way. I mean, we have 150 gigs. Like, what are we gonna do with all those gigs except put silly pictures in them or whatever else you want to put in there? So yeah, so that's you know, store stuff. It's a way to back up. It's a way to free up space on devices that you may need space on to be able to do things you want to do, and makes you be able to find things.
Yeah, the next iOS update was pretty awesome. So
It was a pretty good update, I must say.
it was worth all my pictures.
Oh my God. Well, and I guess another thing, so I think we've beaten the online storage to death. And I'm not saying we beat it. I mean, I have literally nothing else to say about it except that you should do it and just find a system that works for you.
I enjoyed the throwback Thursday to Paris.
Oh, Paris. I know. And every time I logged in, I thought, I want to go to real Paris. Like, why am I?
That was such a random name, too. Like, because everything else is Garnet Gateway or Lyceum.
Right. Okay. So
it took me like 3 years in to figure out what Lyceum.
Okay, you know what? This is a kind of interesting thing. So those of you who are at colleges or really big employers, if your server has a funny name or a ridiculous name, can you leave it in the comments? I'm just curious what people, do they name it after places? Do they name it after Doctor Who characters? Like, I mean, whatever. Like, I'm just kind of curious if different places have different naming systems.
What about the actors for the different doctors?
Right.
Sorry.
Totally, right? I bet someone has a server named after one of the doctors. Somewhere. So whatever you call your thing, let us know what it is, because it's kind of interesting.
Matt Smith, though, because it's kind of
Matt Smith.
It's kind of a boring one. Anyway,
kind of a boring one. Well, the other thing I thought we could talk about too is something that we've been doing at Breaking Even is we're trying to. So I do most of the invoicing just because of what I do, and
because management.
Because management, and sometimes, you know, if there's 4 people because working on a different project and you're all doing different parts of it, it can be hard to track how much time. Or
especially when we aren't all like physically here.
Right. Totally. And it's one thing to check off that something's been done, and it's another thing to know like how long did it really take so that I can build a client properly. I usually give an estimate, but if it takes us less time, I don't want to be a jerk and charge someone an hour when it took us half an hour. So we've started using Toggl, which has no E because it's an internet company and .coms are hard to find, so people are spelling things weird now. But it's a really interesting thing. And it's funny because, you know, when you find something and you like something, so I said, Cassie, can you take a look at this and see if you like this? And you seem to surprisingly like it. I mean, I'm not saying that.
There was that moment when I'm kind of like really hesitant about trying new things.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of us are, but I really have to be pushed off the cliff. So like I would open Toggl and look at it and then just be like, no, not today.
Yeah.
And I kind of paid for that this morning when I was frantically updating.
Sorry.
No, it's totally my fault. I tell myself every time I'm not going to do it. The cool thing about Toggl is, like, once I actually started using it, like, I'm almost addicted to it. Like, I want to use it in my personal. And I actually think I can.
Oh, totally, yeah.
I haven't figured it out yet. But, yeah, you can have it on your phone.
Yeah, and you can time your tasks too, which is neat. So you can either have a live timer or you can go back and say, like, I know I spent half an hour sending emails this morning, so I just went and put in, like, you know, 8:30 to 9 o'clock checking email. And what I also like about it, it's something Cassie discovered yesterday, was that you can kind of share the same account with your team members. So for example, like Cassie has an account, I have an account, so we're all tracking our time, but I can go and I can look and say, oh, for client X, how much time did we spend? Who spent the time? What did we spend time doing? So that we're able to kind of improve our offerings over time, and just even so I can, you know, bill people in the most efficient way possible rather than emailing, you know, Cassie and John and saying, oh, hey, how much time did you spend on client X and blah, blah, blah. It's just all there and we can track it over time without bugging each other.
Nobody's got time for that.
Yeah. But we will say the one tricky thing about Toggl, if you're using it with some people, is the whole, when you make, so what you do is you can make projects.
Yeah. Like you can have no project and just type a description, but then it doesn't, like you can't go in and see like.
Yeah, so project could be client X as a project, right? And you want to log time with client X, like, oh, I did social media for client X, I did email newsletter for client X.
But we were trying to figure out why on my Toggl I couldn't see all of these things that Nicole had created.
Yeah,
it turns out
crazy.
You have to like click this little checkbox that says make this visible to others on your team.
Public. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the default, like Cassie said, isn't checked off. So like for some reason I had made like 5 projects public, but I had like 30 in there, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to save everyone a bunch of time, and I'm going to put all these projects in, and everyone's going to be like, oh good, I didn't have to think of all these. And poor Cassie is like re-putting in probably some of the same projects, and I'm like, why are you doing that? So anyway, she figured that out. So I wanted to pass that on. In case you're using Toggl, and you're wondering why your team can't see all the projects you've made, it's just because the public one isn't checked off. You can go after the fact and make it public by clicking on projects and click make public. There's like a link, but you have to go, you can't like check mark a box and on all of them and click make public. You have to open each one, click make public link, and then click save. So I spent 5 minutes doing that yesterday, and I know because Toggl timed me.
This is gonna ask that.
But yeah, but it's something that I think is kind of cool, and yeah, it's nice in your personal life because you can see like how much time you spend doing some of the things. So I think we all think we spend, like, I'm like, oh, I spend this much time checking my email. I had no idea until Toggl how much time I actually spend checking my email. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and you can really like take inventory of like, oh, I'm beasting through this thing, but you're actually not.
Yeah, or vice versa. I mean, let's face it, sometimes that works. You think you've spent a lot of time on something, and you go back and look at it, and you think, oh, relativity kicked in, and I only spent like 15 minutes on it, but it felt like 3 hours of my life. Because yeah, that happens too. But it's good to know not just what you think, how long you think something's taking you, but how long it's actually taking you. So it's not like we're sitting around with stopwatches for everything, but it's just nice to be able to go through and say, okay, client, you know, this is how many billable hours we had, you know, this is, so client X is paying us this amount, but is sucking up this much of our time, while client Y is paying us like a gazillion dollars and is taking up 5 minutes of our time. So, so we'll be able to track that over time too. But we just started this month, so I don't want to act like we're super experts on this yet, but yeah. Toggl, it's
we like it.
Yeah, it's a cool tool. I asked John, it's like, do you like Toggl? And he's like, man, whatever you want. And I was like, dude, you're allowed to have an opinion. So I haven't got a response from that yet, but I'm sure at some point.
John, if you're watching, have an opinion.
It's okay to have an opinion. If you hate it, that's fine. But yeah, there's, because for a while we were just doing spreadsheets, and while that's fine, it just made it so I had 4 different spreadsheets to check whenever I had to send an invoice, which makes me kind of want to kill myself. And we don't want that, because that's not fun. And I'm trying to think what else has been going on the internet lately that people have been freaking out over.
What's the feedly have to say about this?
What's the feedly you have to say about the internet?
I need to stop saying that.
No, it's okay. It's just your thing this week.
Oh,
yeah.
I know what this is. While you're away from Twitter.
Oh, see, I think people's biggest complaint with Twitter is that they feel like they have to just be on it all the time to get the information they need. So it's nice that seems like there's an alternative for having to sit by Twitter and just seeing stuff as it comes in. That's cool. So,
to quote the article, if you check in on Twitter now and then for a quick snapshot of what's happening, you'll see this recap more often, i.e. the while you're away thing. If you spend a lot of time on Twitter already, you'll see it less. So,
So it's an automatically generated thing? It's not something we can like sign up for?
No, just kind of, yeah.
Okay.
It's to help you keep up.
That's nice.
So you don't get the FOMO with the Twitter. Oh my God. I've been having trouble saying like a lot too.
No, it's fine. But that's interesting. It's nice that companies are sort of realizing that we're all a little overwhelmed, and that maybe there's a way to sort of sift through some of the noise. I think that as social networks sort of evolve, and as we stop following people we know and start following people we're interested in, because like, let's face it, like 5 years ago, we're like, oh yeah, I talked to that girl twice in high school, friend. Now I'm much more like discerning about who I follow, because I want it to be somebody who, whose taste I like, or who is interested in similar things to what I'm interested in, because I'm more likely to see it if I'm following less people. So yeah, so it's nice that there's these services that are coming out to sort of like summarize or sort of show you what the most popular things have been and that kind of stuff. I think we'll be seeing a lot more of that from different social networks as things go on. Like, I think I'll be able to log into Pinterest and be like, oh, here's the 10 most popular pins from your network since you've last logged in. I bet that that's going to be a thing. So that's pretty interesting. I will say the other thing that I've noticed lately, and I'm sure you've noticed it on your phone, when you do a search now, do you notice that it says mobile friendly next to the item? So if you're searching Google, like on Safari or something, and you're looking for something, you'll see a list of links, and it'll say in light gray whether the website is mobile friendly. And if it doesn't say it, it's not mobile friendly. So it gives you an idea before you have to click to open the link and see that the writing is like for ants. It gives you an idea
for ads.
Exactly. It gives you an idea of if a website's mobile friendly, which is interesting because I think that means that, you know, while Google does care a lot about the mobile experience for people, I think that since they're starting to do this, it's like blatant how much they're like, no, really, we're going to show people who are on a mobile phone websites that are mobile friendly when they do a search. And if something is really good but not mobile friendly, we're going to warn people so that when they click on it, they don't get sad when they can't read it very well or have to go like this or whatever. Did you like that?
Yeah, that was pretty accurate.
Yeah.
I can never get my fingers to do it right.
Unless they're on the phone. Or just in general.
Just even on the phone, it's like, yeah, the screen just doesn't want to play.
But yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting, and something that I pointed out to a couple of people when they talk to me, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know about mobile," and then I do a search on my phone and I show them that their website does not say mobile friendly next to it, and then they kind of freak out. Which, okay, freak out, bit strong. They're like they're surprised. They're surprised at this,
some degree.
And I'm not sure when this happened. I feel like it happened in the last month or so.
Yeah, it's pretty recent.
I think it's pretty recent. I probably could have looked it up before we started this call, but I thought that it was something that happened in the last couple of months that Google started.
The first time or the second time.
This is literally the third time we have thought we were recording, but I think we're actually recording. So it says live and it's red and everything. So we'll see.
Oh, that would break my heart.
It would break my heart too, but we've certainly had our hearts broken before by a computer, so.
Yeah, my advice for all the people out there, don't give your heart to a computer.
Don't give your heart to a computer. I think anybody who watched Her might already know that.
I never saw that.
I didn't either, but I know that it didn't end well. That's what happens when you listen to a lot of pop culture podcasts is everyone assumes that like you went to the movie opening day and they start talking about it and you're like, don't ruin it for me. But then they already have because they've already told you. Like, yeah, that's happened to me several times. So now I just don't even listen to like the Slate Culture Gabfest or anything because I know they're just going to ruin it for me. You know, I don't need to, you know, I appreciate when they're like, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about Downton Abbey. And then you can be like, okay, I haven't seen it yet. So I'm going to turn this off. Thank you for telling me before assuming that, you know, like Gone Girl was totally ruined for me because at the beginning they're like, well, I didn't know, and I'm not going to ruin it for you by saying it. But at the beginning of the podcast they said that, and then they're like, oh, should I have said that? And I was like, no, you jerk, you shouldn't have said that. Some of us like don't see things on opening weekend. Sometimes it takes things a while to get here to Maine. And sometimes it doesn't.
Sorry for ruining Gone Girl for you.
You did not ruin Gone Girl. A podcast ruined Gone Girl for me. You didn't ruin it, Cassie. You never ruin it. I'm trying to think, is there anything else you want to talk about that you've seen go by on your internet that's kind of interesting?
How office temperature affects productivity.
As we sit above a space heater that's blasting right now.
Right. That's, I'm intrigued, but we don't have to go into that.
Save that for later.
It's a really stock photo of a guy in front of a fan.
He looks totally blissed out. There's some really good stock photos out there.
Really hard.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm sure you've probably seen I've seen it go around a couple of people. Like this guy has photoshopped himself into stock photos, and the results are surprising and creepy or something to do a Upworthy type headline, or you won't believe what happened when a guy photoshopped himself onto stock photos.
I kind of want to do that for myself. I actually kind of just want to like stage stock photos and sell them to people.
We can do that. If you see some of the stuff that's available on iStock Photo or other sites that you can buy, trust me, we could totally do that. Let's make that happen. Maybe 2015 is your year of being a stock photo model.
You imagine having that on your resume.
There are worse things to have on your resume. For sure.
Sure. On that note.
And on that note,
please send us questions.
We covered a lot of ground today, I must say.
We did. Like, we could do this every week, but, you know, if you have anything slightly more relevant that we could be helping you with, that'd be cool.
Yeah, and otherwise it's just fine. We'll hang out and talk for half an hour about technology and internet culture, because that's fun.
Yeah.
More fun for some of us than others. But yeah, we'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Right?
Yeah. I was like processing.
All right. Well, have a good week, and we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.